Hello everyone, welcome again, and today I want to speak to you about the sitting board. Now when you hear the board of a company, the first thing that comes to your mind is board of directors. I want to correct that notion. You're correct to an extent, but not totally correct, because a company has different boards that serve different purposes. The board of directors is just one type of board of a company. Now the board of a company is basically a group of individuals who are responsible, for making the core decisions about the operations, management, finances, and everything that has to do with the company. They are the ones that hold the company. You can rightly call them the pillars of the company. Now, the board of directors is just one of the types of board. Generally, companies have two types of boards, and this refers to mostly middle scale and small scale companies that just operate normally. They have two types of boards. They usually have the board of directors and the advisory boards. Now big companies, large scale companies go ahead to put together other types of boards to handle specific matters for accountability's sake. We have the executive board, we have the audit committee, we have the compensation committee, we have the nominating committee, and we have the governance committee. Now, so depending on the type of business being operated, depending on the size of the company, these different boards come into play. But the two standard boards are usually the board of directors and the advisory board. To aid our understanding, I will be breaking down the different types of board just to state their functions and just help you understand where each of them come into play. The first one we'll be taking is the board of directors, the one you know. Now, the board of directors are the elected or appointed members of a company that are put in charge of handling the core matters of the company. They're in charge of hiring and firing executives. They're in charge of determining the investments and acquisitions of a company. So the board of directors, like you rightly know, are the top executives that can make the core decisions about the company. They have a legal and fiduciary obligation towards the company to ensure the maximum success of the company. Now let us dive into the functions of the board of directors. The first function we will be discussing is setting and overseeing the company's strategies. It is the duty of the board of directors to set, to put in place and monitor the progress of every strategy they want to work with for the success of the company. Now, when they put in place the strategies, they also oversee the management team of the company to ensure that they are going with what has been laid down, to ensure that they are performing their duties stricto sensu, to ensure that nobody is sleeping on their roles. It is the board, the management team reports to the board. So it is the board that ensures that everything is going smoothly, and if there is need for a change and adjustment, it is the board that will still preside on that. So that is the first function of the board of directors. The next function we'll be discussing is risk management. Now, for middle scale and small scale companies that just have maybe the board of directors and the advisory board, the board of directors position themselves to determine any risks that could arise and come up with strategies to mitigate or totally avert them. So that is one of the roles of the board of directors. The next role of the board of directors is to make decisions. They have the presiding power. They have the power to determine how the company should move, things that should be or should not be done in the company. Now, the next function of the board of directors is to hire and fire. They have the power to hire and fire the senior executives of the company. Now, there's the human resources department of the company that can, hire and fire the normal employees, the front desk officer, the accountant, or the board of directors are in charge of hiring and firing the senior members of the company, the ogas. The board determines if they should stay or if it's time for them to go. The board is also responsible for overseeing the finances of the company, ensuring that the money is not put into useless use. so to say. So the board is in charge of that. The board monitors the finances, ensures that the accountant is doing his or her role properly to ensure that the financial management team of the company are not misappropriating and diverting funds, and just ensuring that the finances of the company are secure. The board also monitors the legal and ethical compliance of the company, ensuring that the company is working within the compass of the law and that the officers representing the company are not conducting themselves in a manner that could be detrimental to the reputation of the brand. The board also serves as a direct link between the company's management team and other stakeholders, providing every information that is necessary to the stakeholders on the operations, everything they need to know. The board represents the company in that regard. Now, finally, the board monitors itself. This is just to ensure that the board is in the right position to make informed decisions about the company without bias. Right, so when there is a mix of, let's say, lawyers, there's a mix of lawyers, accountants, negotiators, different officers with different skills coming together to put heads together and put together their capacity, their skills, their experiences together to ensure that the business goes smoothly. So every information we need, legal information, financial information, different types of information are being put together for the best decisions and to produce success. The second major board we will be discussing is the advisory board. Most companies, most middle-scale, big-scale companies have an advisory board. An advisory board is a group of individuals carefully selected specifically for their expertise. So this is, let's say within the board of directors, they reselect a group of individuals for their high level of knowledge, for their expertise, their years of experience, so they can, put heads together and make the core decisions about the company. The advisory board is usually made up of negotiators, accountants, financial experts, lawyers, marketing experts, lawmakers even, so they can put heads together and come up with the fastest way to achieve the desired success of the company. Now, the key functions, just as I have stated, let me just expatiate on them a bit. The key functions of the advisory board, first one is, providing expert expertise. They're selected for their expertise, right? So it's for them to provide expert advice in their areas of specifications for the company's benefit. So the next function is accountability. They help, the company hold the key executives accountable. After they have made the decisions based on their expertise, they now ensure that the executives in charge of those specific roles, perform their duties at the highest level of professionalism required. The next function is networking. They serve as a networking tool. They help the company establish relationships within their areas of specification. For example, the lawyer on the advisory board probably has friends in the legal world that can also function to the benefit of the company. Now, the last function we'll be explaining is mentorship. Of course, they serve as mentors to the executive team of the company. So they are basically the bosses of each field. The lawyer on the advisory board will obviously serve as a mentor to the legal team of the company. The financial advisor of the company will serve as a mentor to the financial management team of the company. So they serve mentorship purposes and ensure that everybody is carried along and understands their roles properly. Now, with this said, let us move on to the other types of boards and committees that exist in mostly middle-scale and large-scale companies. Now, the executive board, just like the name states, executive, to execute, is usually comprised of the core members. We're talking about the chief executive officer, the chief information officer, the chief operating officer, and the chief financial officer. These are mostly the key officers that comprise of the executive board. Now, they are in charge of handling the daily operations, ensuring the daily success. The board of directors can sit when there are specific issues, specific core decisions that they need to make. They could call for a meeting for the board of directors to sit and preside over it. But the executive board is in charge of the daily operations. They are the ones that position themselves to ensure that the company runs smoothly every day. The chief executive officer is always on ground. The chief financial officer is always on ground to disburse funds. The chief information officer is always on ground to pass out information and make researches and make sure that they are well informed. The chief operating officer is there to make sure that everybody is carrying on their duties properly and the company is in good operations. So the executive board is always on ground to ensure that. So middle scale companies and big scale companies that handle big operations always have this board in place for accountability's sake, so they know who to hold responsible when a certain department is not functioning properly. That is the function of the executive board. The next board we'll be discussing is the audit committee. The audit committee is in charge of overseeing the company's accounting, financial and auditing processes. It ensures that there is proper monitoring to put the company on the right path of completeness, transparency, accuracy and compliance with all accounting standards. So after all the financial records of the company are being put together, the audit committee will sit, review them, analyze them, cross-check them and ensure that they are correct and in accordance with every accounting standard. The next board we'll be discussing is the compensation board. Now, it is the duty of the compensation board to set policies as regards the payments of staff. So from time to time, they sit to review each department and determine if there are people that should get a raise or there are people that have been working overtime and doing their duties exceptionally, how to share money, benefits, different things. That is the duty of the compensation committee. They set the salaries of each department and each executive and make sure that everybody is getting what is due them. They just want to ensure that they are properly paying everybody, putting in account the economic situation and their new roles, their new levels at work. They make sure that everything matches. They make sure that the finances match their output. Nobody is getting underpaid. Nobody is feeling like they need to seek opportunities out there. They want to retain their top talents. They want to pay them properly and make sure that their pay matches their roles. The next one is the risk management committee. Just like the name implies, risk management committee, they manage risks. They make sure they are on top of things. They make sure they are, monitoring all the activities, monitoring the economic situation, the market trends, the market policies, whether there are new government regulations, just making sure that the company does not run into unforeseen circumstances. So they plan ahead. They analyze possible risks and look for ways to avert them. Now, if the company is currently experiencing, a downtime or a problem, something that could threaten the daily operations, threaten the business, they come up with ways and different strategies to mitigate it and cancel it. That is the role of the risk management committee. Now, the nominating committee is a small group of people out of the board of directors that have the responsibility of nominating potential candidates to be on the boards. Now, this committee could, for large-scale companies, they could nominate candidates for each of these board members that we have identified. For middle-scale and small-scale companies, they are in charge of nominating people that, that should serve as part of the board of directors. So they scout everybody, the top executives, right? They scout them, they look at their credentials, look at their years of experiences, look at the skills and the contributions they have added to the company, and try to analyze and see if they are worthy to serve as part of the board of directors. That is the role of the nominating committee. The last type of board we'll be discussing is the governance committee. The governance committee is a group of independent directors that are not a part of the company's executive team. Now, they are selected this way so there is no form of bias, right? Because their duty is to ensure that the company is strictly following every established law and bylaw. They are the governance committee. They govern. They ensure that the company is acting right and is following every accounting standard, financial expectations, legal standard, taxation standard, every single thing that is expected of the company. They are strict, they are firm, they are not biased, they are not a part of the executive team, so they can set laws for the benefit of the company. They are there to play that crucial role in enforcing accountability in each department of the company, and just to ensure that the company does not run into trouble, to ensure that the company is following ethical standards and does not ruin its reputation in the eye of the public. That is the duty of the governance committee. In all of this, we can see that each department is important depending on the size of the company. For small scale companies and middle scale companies, we can merge these departments. We can have just the board of directors, and find a way to ensure that the board of directors perform all of these roles, right? But for large scale companies, it is advisable to have these different boards. It's advisable to have these different sitting boards so as to, number one, ensure accountability. Number two, ensure effectiveness, right? Division of labor. Let there be people in charge of executing the daily activities. Let there be people in charge of auditing the financial and accounting processes of the company. Let there be people in charge of ensuring that every member of staff is properly compensated. Let there be people in charge of nominating those who will be part of each board members. For large scale companies, it's important to have these different boards sitting, presiding, and ensuring the maximum growth of the company.